Welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah, and I am with Adam today. No, Ari. What's going on? Well, Ari and Adam are both busy people, and sometimes it's hard to get both of them in the same room at the same time. Some people say that they've never been in the same room at the same time, and they've just been digi-doubles. It's been me talking to myself this whole thing.
Holograms.
Yeah, exactly. Ari's gone this time around. We will get Ari back. It will be done, but for this next batch, it's just going to be Adam and I rolling around, coming up with cool ideas. This is the Obojima Podcast, where you tune into our weekly writers meeting, where we, the writers of Obojima, just sit down and come up with cool concepts and talk about cool D&D stuff. This is a interesting podcast episode for a lot of reasons. But besides Ari being gone, this also marks a kind of shift in the podcast. As of now, Obojima's pretty much written. Like, there's some things that we're buttoning up. There's some playtest stuff. There's, we're making alterations, but there's not a lot of writing to do left for this book, and especially not writing that, encompasses an entire podcast episode for us to talk about. And so what does that mean for the podcast? Well, it means that the content that you are going to be hearing on this podcast, at least for the foreseeable future, is not going to be in the Obojima book. Instead, it's just us continually developing the world. So we're producing new content for you to add into the world and use in your own campaigns. And then, if things go well, not everything, but we'll eventually compile this and most likely put it in kind of like an expanded universe book for people to, have a more fleshed out Obojima. The reality is Obojima was a very daring project, and it's a lot, right? It's 60 monsters. It's a huge potion brewing mechanic system. Yeah. It's developing a world. It's creating a space. It's creating new monsters. It's spells. It's equipment. It's feats. It is a lot of things. And so, at a certain point in time, we had to do a cutoff where we couldn't put more content in the book because it's just going to get too big and too expensive. And so what this is if we do a secondary book, it'll allow us to, this thing that we're creating now will allow us to continue to develop the world in the way that we really want to. Because, there's 30 locations in the Obojima book, but that's, there's so much more that Obojima has to offer, so much more creative locations and characters and factions and groups and spells and monsters. And so we want to do that here on the podcast. We want to continue to develop it. And if people like it, then, like I said, we can kind of focus on collecting that into, this expanded universe book. So I say all of that as a warning. What you're hearing now is going to be cool. And it will not be an Obojima, and I'm very sorry about that. But you will have access to it through the podcast, and you will eventually get that content in some format. So, yeah.
Cool. Once you get rolling in a world, you just want to keep going and going and going on it.
Yeah.
And you want to know what is beyond. It's a big map, and it's a big island, and there's all kinds of things that we had that kind of are either went on the cutting room floor, or ideas that we're still having even after the book is kind of almost at a wrap.
Yeah.
And so all those ideas, we want to plant them and have them grow into happy Obojima trees.
The old happy. You can't throw a stick at Adam without a Bob Ross adjacent comment. Not something Bob Ross would say. Just Adam sounds so much like Bob Ross sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, Bob Ross comes at a time in everybody's life when they need him most, and he's like a superhero.
He is. Yeah. I actually saw him stopping a mugger earlier.
He did. He just swooped in.
Yeah, he swooped in. It was crazy.
It was a happy accident.
Yeah,
and then he left.
Yeah. It was a happy accident. Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot we've said. There's a lot that we've written that we mention certain things. We do a lot of name dropping in Obojima where we go, here's this thing. And then we don't talk about it anywhere else. And that's to give you a concept that the world is bigger than what is written on the page. And it's for you to fill in those dots. But at the same time, we can fill in some of those dots for you. And that's what this podcast is about. Moving forward, at least, is continuously writing and developing the space.
Yeah.
So more content. The answer is more content. Obojima doesn't stop getting developed at the end of this book.
Yeah.
There's more to it. And with that, we have a very, 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 very cool location to develop. One that everyone's going to be sad isn't in the book. And I'm sorry about that. But it is so good. And we have artwork. And I think we just start with the artwork here. We have a poster, right? Obojima has a poster that was unlocked for the $1 million or $2 million stretch goal. I don't know. One of the crazy stretch goals that we never thought we'd hit. Where everyone, I don't quote me on this because I can't remember exactly what the stretch goal is, but I think everyone got a poster. And so we need to design that poster. And although we could have utilized existing artwork or something like that, I wanted something completely new. And because it was like a limited edition poster that we're not going to print anywhere else, I wanted to do something with a unique artist. And so rather than utilizing our own artists, I went and found a different artist who does really great stuff that stylistically isn't exactly Obojima, but I think can capture the feeling of Obojima. And so while we were doing that poster design, they sent me over a couple different mock-ups and things like that, and we ended up going with one in one direction. But there was a piece that they sent that was just a rough sketch that was such a cool concept. I don't even know, like, it's crazy. It's so cool. And it's of a city. It's of these this like strange kind of like boardwalk, not boardwalk, but what's like the metal scale, or not scaling, what's the thing that construction workers use?
Yeah, scaffolding.
Yeah. Hey, there we go. Scaffolding. It's metal scaffolding connecting these 3 ginormous fish creatures that are popping out of the water with their mouths open, and the city is inside of their mouths. That is a wild description. And so if you're on like Spotify or only audio, I highly recommend you check out the YouTube video to see this artwork because it's very visually evocative and exciting and cool. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, we can't use this for the poster because it makes no sense, right? This is like this doesn't exist in Obojima until we develop it right now, in which case it will exist. And it's so interesting and so cool. And I want to do that. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to develop this space. I don't know anything about it. Yeah. That's the thing is normally we have a little bit planned. We've talked about these locations a little bit. We know where they fit.
I mean, I guess a cool place to start is like the actual giant fish that have their mouths open. Like, are those things constructs? Are they robotic? Are they animated stone? Because they almost look like they're stone.
Yeah.
Or are they living like spirits that just kind of take the appearance of stone?
So there's a creature called the stone whale. You can throw the artwork up. That is kind of like it's a giant, it looks like a giant whale, but it's made out of stone. It has moss growing down its back. And the lore I wrote for them is that they can live and breathe in certain areas, and they can swim through earth and stone. And they kind of migrate across the island. And so people will come and like ride on their backs to get around the island, or they also have, they'll like, if they nestle in the ground and like rest in a certain area, certain like potion ingredients might grow on their back, and then they travel to a different portion of the island, and all of these merchants run over to the pods to come and collect like the ingredients that are rare that are from the opposite end of the island. And so I built that out, but this idea of fish that are stone, I know whales aren't fish, don't come at me.
How dare you?
But aquatic life that is also stone is something that we're playing with already. And so the question is, are these other fish similar to that, where they were they're these kind of like stone hybrid, or were they giant creatures potentially turned to stone from some effect, or locked in place or cursed?
I mean, it kind of depends. It's like if you want the cities to actually be mobile, then there's the stone whale angle would be great for that, where the fish open up, the people can interact, and then the fish closes its mouth, and then it can go somewhere else, and then open it up again. That would also beg the question: is anybody in control of that thing?
Right.
Is like the mayor of the town like, we will now move to this other side, and the stonefish closes. But if you want the city to remain static, then to have it be just like it was petrified, and people found it and were like, that would be a great place to build a city, and like we can just kind of go in there. The other cool thing is if it is static, you could have all of its innards be like a dungeon, and you could delve in there. Yeah. And like in ancient days, that thing might have swallowed something or a number of things, and these things could be like, all over its gastrointestinal tubes.
I love that.
Cool.
Love that. Okay, so I'm a big fan of once a fish, now a statue.
Once a fish.
Yeah, it reminds me of, as soon as you said that, it was giving Delicious in Dungeon vibes.
Oh, whoa. Have
you watched that yet?
I've seen a bunch of, well, not a bunch. A handful.
I've seen a clip. But yeah, I think there's something really fun. Well, I guess the show's not fully lighthearted. It gets kind of crazy. But for the most part, it's fairly lighthearted. And I like the idea of maybe a city that's part of their culture, where it's like kids are like, do you want to go down in the dungeon? And then all the other kids are like, yeah. And it's like kind of, maybe there's like a bunch of nuisance type creatures that are like maybe the, obvious dungeon tropes, right? The further you go down, the more dangerous it is. But like the first like 4 or 5 levels are like not scary at all.
Yeah.
Where it's like kids are down there playing, and they might see like, oh, it's a soda slime, and they like all beat up the soda slime. Yeah. Like it's like not necessarily dangerous, which I don't hate.
Yeah.
Another cool thing for this is like if it is a dungeon inside of them, it could be that the stomach is the treasure trove. What did these fish swallow when they were alive? Yeah. And that's what everyone's trying to get to, but they, you never can quite get there.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like, I don't know. There could be the stomach, but then there could be like 4 things leading out of the stomach. Like it's not just say like this single pipe that goes through the whole fish. It's like, yeah. I had a thought, and it was just like, and then it just
like a fish,
like a fish swimming through the dark,
swimming to become a stone statue.
But no, that's cool.
I like that.
I like it. I like how they're they're having fun in it, and it's not like maybe it's sort of like, don't go past the stomach, or maybe it's blocked, like nobody's ever been able to get inside.
Gastrointestinal issues.
It's the what is it, the duodenum or something like that? That's my anatomy fanciness for today.
Oh my
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You could be fully gaslighting me, and I'd be like, yeah.
The flingulator.
The flingulator.
But yeah, it could be blocked, and nobody's been able to get in there. But legend has it that once this fish long ago swallowed a something, and that something was made of gold.
What if? Ooh. What if? There is a thing that people are after, and they don't know which of the fish it's in. So it's like, people like locals are like, I swear it's in the eastern fish, and everyone's like, you're crazy, it's in the western fish. And like there's all this like myth behind where this MacGuffin is. And maybe it's in a fourth fish, an unseen fourth fish. Maybe there's a live one still. Maybe one of them got away, and there's this giant fish that lives. Where is this? So here's the other thing. Where is this? Are they in the sea? Is this, Obojima's lakes are ginormous. There's 4 huge lakes that are, if you know the Great Lakes from the United States at all, these ginormous,
it's superior level.
Yeah. They're so big that they have like wakes and produce waves. And so, this could be in one of those, which means that this lake is big enough to house a fish of this size potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, a fish of this size is absolutely ginormous. I don't even know, for a fish to be open and to house like 50 homes or something inside its mouth. I have no idea what the size of that. It's gargantuan times 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
bigger than a Tarrasque.
Maybe a mile long. Maybe
a
mile or 2 long.
A mile. Yeah. Which, I don't know. I guess when you have I'm thinking of a goldfish enclosure now. If you have a goldfish and a goldfish is 1 inch, if the goldfish's enclosure is 300 inches wide, that's enough inches for a goldfish, right?
Yeah.
To thrive.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know, man. You dive. You've seen a goldfish, probably.
Yeah. I mean, they're it's like, it's hard to tell like how like happy that thing is. Like, is it flourishing in the goldfish bowl? Like, but
well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's upset that it's stuck inside of this.
Yeah.
Maybe they grew to these heights. Maybe they grew to these sizes not at their will, but by something else.
Yeah. It could be, like maybe, well, okay, were they petrified long ago by a powerful wizard? Mm-hmm. Were they, was it some kind of, prophecy? Was it spirits? Were they originally from the spirit realm and they thought they could maybe they came here, and as soon as they hit the real world, they froze. Another interesting thing is that when they're frozen, as they're kind of coming up, gulping for air, kind of like koi fish.
Yeah.
When there's the low oxygen in the water, the fish will come up and they'll kind of swallow, air. So maybe they were doing that, but I don't know.
What if this is, to kind of tie back into the concept we had with spirits wanting like hyper specific things, like non-physical items, but rather like emotions and and specific stuff like that. What if these were 4 fish? What if these were 4 spirits that landed in this lake, and they it's kind of like a Greek tragedy or like some sort of, biblical, nuanced, don't do this thing because it'll, a parable. Thank you. Yeah. Where the fish were huge, like pretty big, like the size of like a key truck or something. And, they would they'd dive out of the water and do all this crazy stuff. And people became obsessed with them. And started visiting them, and the more the more they showed engagement and excitement and praise for these fish, the bigger they would grow. And they kept on growing, and they wouldn't stop growing. That parades of year-long festival happened where they're constantly partying around the lake, and they were celebrating. The fish would come out, and they kept on growing in size, and then from some twisted fate, I don't know, maybe somebody stopped caring about them, or a wizard wanted to punish them, or a different spirit came and froze them in stone. Or maybe the island itself turned them into a spectacle, like a statue, as oh, you want to be a spectacle? Here you are. You will be enjoyed forever as an art piece.
Yeah, it could be like they got so big that their lake wasn't big enough for them.
Yeah.
And there could be a message there of growing too huge and consuming all your resources and just wiping out, the livableness of your environment. Like it could be a deal like that where maybe they ate the 4th, there were 3, sisters or 3 brothers, and then the 3 ate the other one because they ran out of, it could be kind of gruesome. I don't know if that's quite Obojima vibed, but I don't know.
Well, that's kind of, maybe they're all feeding them.
Yeah.
Like that's how they're going.
Yeah.
They're just constantly throwing food in.
Yeah, just like.
But it's actually like killing the countryside. Like all of their crops and all their food is going to feed these fish, and they
That's
they
cool.
can't stop feeding them. And then one day, like they can't. They just don't have enough, and they eat the fourth fish, and all the villagers turn on them and turn them to stone or something.
Yeah, or even like the fourth fish, its last sort of proclamation was like, "You'll be all turned to stone," or
yeah, that's very Greek,
Yeah.
like, or you know,
or like a wizard comes in, and or some sort of priest or whatever, and you know, and says, you've all like gone crazy here, and so now we're just going to turn all your things to stone, and they'll remind you that once was this, like this wonderful lake now has just been devoured, because the fish could have eaten everything in the lake and just wiped it all out.
It could be like a like one of those, the fish, everyone loved the fish and were feeding them constantly, and then the relationship kind of turned sour where the fish are forcing people to bring them food. And they're like, we can't, like the people are like, we can't keep on feeding them, and so they find like a trickster mage to come help them, and the trickster mage goes and talks to all three of them, and like convinces them to each to like eat a stone fruit or something like that. And like has like this whole like, like again, in an old mythic tale, like Coyote and indigenous peoples, like very trickstery, and has to have this conversation where it convinces each one of them and uses like their hubris and like their self-importance to trick them into eating these fruits to turn them into stone.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It'd be neat, like, because now people are living in there and they're, have their villages and homes and whatever, but maybe there's this sort of like list of different rumors about what people think actually went on. And there could be a group that knows, the ancient stories, but there could be, like other kinds of rumors, or there could be, each fish has a certain personality, and that it kind of aligns with the village. And, there could be stories about what that fish was, and or maybe that fish, maybe they were originally, the spirits were, they weren't like in fish form. They could be humanoid, and each of them has like the little statue of what that, that spirit looked like.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when they wanted to become gods, they slowly turned into just giant greedy fish. And, could be like,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's fun.
If they had, if we went with the stone, like some trickster wizard fed them something to turn them to stone, that could be the MacGuffin that everyone's looking for. Like the stone fruit's still in there.
Oh, wow.
And
like super powerful.
If we take the stone fruit, well, maybe that's a thing. It's like most of the village is like, you can explore the dungeon, but don't go past level 5, because if you take the stone fruit out from their stomach, they'll turn back.
Oh, dude.
And so everyone's like, oh yeah, you don't like, that's like,
yeah,
we could explore the dungeon. We're choosing not to. You don't go past level 5.
Yeah.
Like there's fun things down there. Like it's part of the city. People explore. There is treasure to be had, things that they, swallowed up, but you don't go into the stomach, and you do not take the stone fruit. And then maybe there's like a group of people that are like, we want the stone fruit.
Yeah.
Like we don't live here. We don't care what happens to this village. We just want this fruit.
Wow. I mean, okay, so if that is the deal, and you're trying to tempt your players and just be like, come on, you want to do it. But there's like all these families and villages, and if you make that fish come alive, it's just going to go chomp.
Yep.
And it's so if I was running this, I would be like, there's something about the village or the villagers that's kind of jerky.
Yeah.
That makes you want to do that. Like, I don't know, like what party would actually, I mean, you could have a party of jerks, and they're just like, yeah, it'd be fun to destroy a village. But with most players, like, how would you kind of create a situation where they want to do it?
You could do this. The stone fruit is said to can be utilized as any potion ingredient of any rarity.
Whoa.
And so what you do is you set them up that they need a potion, and they can't get the ingredient for it. And then someone goes, well, if you just take a piece of the stone fruit, you don't need the whole thing. The fish will still stay alive, or the fish will still stay frozen. You just need a piece of it. But that person really wants it. So it's someone manipulating them into being like, you just need, like, once I know how to get there, I can come back and steal it myself.
Or maybe nobody knows. I mean, now that we've let the cat out of the bag, everybody knows it. But maybe nobody knows that when you remove the stone fruit, the fish comes back alive.
Yeah.
And it might be one of those deals where you want to go get the stone fruit. You've heard the rumors. You're like, oh, yeah, and there's a reason why you want to go get it. And so you go down in there, and then somebody, one of your players is like, hey, if we take this thing, does this thing come back? Like, does it unfreeze?
Yeah.
Like, and then everybody's like, oh, shoot, we didn't know. And then there's like that sort of like panicky table talk discussion. But like, we're so close. And,
we're so close.
Yeah, we want to. And then it's up to you, the DM, whether you say, yep, that's what happens, or nope, that's not what, they take the stone fruit and nothing happens. Or you can take the stone fruit and then there's just catastrophe.
It doesn't have to be like the fish instantly turns back, but it could be that you take the stone fruit out and then all of a sudden reports are coming back like stone scaling is falling off and the fish, like one of the fins is like free.
Cool.
So it's not like immediately, but it's slowly happening. And now it's like, how do we replace this? We need to put something in there to stop it.
Either you got to run it back or you have to scream evacuate.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just like get everybody out.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's like the fun lore. That's the myth. That's like how it happened. But now let's talk about the culture of the interior, right? So we're thinking 3 fish. Well, at least in the artwork, there's 3 fish. And each one of them has like a small collection. So it's not the biggest of cities, but it's cities. It's also probably not very first agey.
No.
Because it's all built inside the mouth of these fish.
Yeah.
They probably brought first age tech there. There's probably still a vending machine or two and stuff like that. But it's all very like Obojima style architecture and structures.
I mean, these things could have swallowed a bunch of first age stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, you could find all kinds of, could find a whole like supermarket down in its gut,
Oh my gosh, a supermarket in its gut is awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. No, so they, what is their culture like? What do they do? Right? So they're elevated above probably one of these lakes, or they're in one of these giant lakes. They might be on the ocean side, but I think we need more locations in the interior of Obojima because we put so many things on the coastline, which is true. That's where cities are. That's people live on the coastline. But we can put it, I think putting it on one of the lakes is great. So, but what is the culture? What are the people there known for?
Yeah. If you're a traveler in Obojima and you hear about this place, like you're like, oh, we've got to go there because this,
probably not fishing because we do fish quite often. Probably not first aid stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that has to do with like the guts of the fish that the people are able, like, it produces.
Maybe it's like a giant, like crazy garage sale. Like they're just pulling stuff out of their gut constantly. All the time. And so every now and then, it's almost like miners. It's like if you took like a mining community and they've got all their gems and stuff on display. This place is like, it's like a giant like Goodwill Value Village. Like they're just mining all this stuff and you never know what they're going to bring up. And they could just like have it all out there and that could be one thing. Or, or it could be that one fish specializes in that one fish village and the other one has a totally different identity. Like I like that maybe also the 3 of them are in some kind of competition or they're like,
ooh, like a person. Yeah. Like they all, I don't want to build too many class divides where it's like, you're from the Eastern fish.
Or it's like friendly, it's sort of like, I don't know, like, well,
they're all from the same city, but they're all, they're all competing in some capacity. Yeah. If it is like they're pulling junk from the thing, maybe they're constantly like, it's a, junkers are, these high-end titles that people have, and the person who brings the most exciting thing out, like that of the month. People love that. And depending on, people get a lot of pride to be like, oh, I live in the Eastern Fish, and that's where the cool junk was pulled from this month. And so it's like, we've got the last 3, prized stomach finds or whatever, and everyone's like, the Western Fish will get one soon. We swear, that we're brewing up something good.
Man, it makes me think of like, okay, let's say each of these, villages inside these fish are actually kind of like mining villages, and they all go down into all the tubes and vessels and stuff within these kind of magical spirit fish, and they're pulling out stuff, and maybe once every month or once every 3 months they have this sort of like, what did every village collect, and then they put it out on display, and sort of like people who love to get treasures, witches who are looking for new, cool, crazy ingredients. All these people come from all around to actually be a part of this thing. And then maybe there's like an auction and there's a bid but the competition is that each village is mining its own fish. And, you might get down the esophagus and it gets blocked, and you're like, you've got to chisel your way through, and you might have to like chisel around or chisel through the body of the fish, and then all of a sudden you stumble on this tube that goes somewhere, and it could be like, and then you're discovering things.
What my question is, one of the things they finding down there, first age tech, they'd probably find some of that, but is this also a way for us to potentially tie into the history of that time period? And so what if this happened during the age of the Nakadama? Where all of the stuff they're pulling out is just, it's like this crazy old forgotten Nakadama, like, you could find evidence there of like the battle with the queen and versus the demon emperor, the Nakadama. You could find, sort of even more history like that. This could open up a thing where we can write a bigger section about historic Nakadama, the age of the Nakadama, historic Nakadama objects. Like, what were their, did they have crazy magic items that are just kind of unique to them? Like, if you're playing a Nakadama, you could find something here that is really like really cool and does something really fun for your character. So that would be really neat. That's pretty cool. Yeah, dig it. I think that's interesting. Maybe it's not because I was thinking about the age. Maybe it's not the age of the Nakadama, but the age of the humans. But the start of the age of the humans, where Nakadama are like coming off a pretty major loss and are like recuperating and stuff like that. Heck with this world conquest stuff. Yeah, but still, like, but then also like, it makes sense that they just be throwing in old junk from the the last empire and stuff like that. They're like, oh, we don't want any of this. Yeah, this is useless now. Take it. Yeah. Or like bury it. We don't even want to look at it anymore. Like, this is dangerous. Like, this could actually tempt us to go back into our old warring ways. Yeah. And like, we had kind of created this idea that there was a big war with the Nakadama, and it caused a lot of mayhem. And then there was this sage that kind of came along and said, look, we're doing away with all of this stuff. We're doing away with all this royal nonsense. Like, let's just be simple people and enjoy the world. And so it could be that when you're unearthing this stuff, it could be like you're unearthing things that Nakadama might actually be like, look, you should actually leave this stuff alone. Ooh. Like, this is not good for, So maybe it's like, maybe there's a little bit of a stigma from some of the Nakadama about this town. Where it's like, I don't like, maybe some of them are like, it's bad omens. Yeah. What you're doing is bad omens, and this is meant to be left behind. So part of this culture of these places might be that there are Nakadama there that are kind of trying to counter it. Like, don't look any deeper. They're, repent, the world is at hand. Like that kind of a thing. But in that sort of vein, like they're actually, they might be like, don't go any further, or like, you shouldn't get this, or
there might be a contingent of Nakadama from a temple that are like, we will buy any of that stuff at any price because we just want to take it out of the sort of circulation.
Maybe there's two conflicting groups of Nakadama that are like, or maybe even three, I don't know.
That's cool.
There could be Nakadama that are like the political, that are like, we'll buy it from you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a rich Nakadama comes, it's like, we'll take care of it. And like, they're well respected and people see them as merchants, but in reality, that's like, this is Nazi propaganda. This is Nazi propaganda, and we should be burning this. Right. And then there's the other version of the Nakadama that are like aggravated, that are like, no, we're not going to buy this. We're going to steal it. We're going to throw this away. We'll take care of this. This doesn't deserve to come back up. Yeah. And so we're going to get rid of it ourselves. And like people kind of, you know, it's like Magneto and Professor X. Yeah. You know, style of you know, diplomatic versus you know, I guess more freedom fighter-ish style. Yeah. There also could be Nakadama there that like participate in it and are like, no, I love buying and selling these things and it's great. And everyone over there is, you know, reading too much into it and you don't need to worry about it. And now it's like, you know, maybe they have disdain for each other. And there's kind of this, a Nakadama could kind of take a bunch of different directions when entering in this place.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of leave it up for like a DM to be either it's like much ado about nothing. It's like, this isn't, you know, what the big hoopla is all about. Or it could be, you know, too sinister. Like it could be like there is a Nakadama who has actually discovered the prison where the demon emperor is kept. Like they've gone on the spirit train. They've gone inside the mountain. They've gone to that place. And now they're getting information. Or it could be that they're receiving it through some kind of spirit that can kind of travel between those two worlds. And, you know, and that person is like, that Nakadama is like, okay, I'm going to try to rebuild it. Tsunami.
What if one of the fish was able to contact someone? Like the frozen fish.
Ooh.
And they're like, they've convinced them to come and take the stone fruit. Or to do some sort, like, you know, like they're like, you know, like
they've like it, like they pretended to be something else, like a vision, like some spirit, wavy spirit comes in a dream and says, remove the stone fruit and I will make you, you know, powerful, you know, and
that's cool.
And then you're like, oh, gotta go do it.
I gotta do it.
And hopefully you have a buddy who's like, dude, don't do it.
Don't do it. I think with the Nakadama thing, I think if we did it, we keep it fairly light.
Yeah.
Because we don't want too many, like, the thing that people should be excited about are the fish and the history of the fish and the stone fruit and all of that. And if we do like evil MacGuffins with an evil MacGuffin already in there, then it's just like maybe some of the Nakadama are opposed to it, but like. It. Yeah.
What if we did an evil MacGuffin made of evil MacGuffins?
Oh my gosh. Like a Lego piece.
Yeah, it's just like a leg. Yeah. But no. Yeah, that's cool. Just kind of hint at it and just say, hey, if you want to make it, go for it.
Yeah. There's Nakadama artifacts in here and that can be taken in any direction. Yeah. If the stone fruit angle is not the thing you want to go for, then you can go in a completely different.
Yeah. If you want to go crazy, listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And go Nakadama wild.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time left here. What do we think about some interesting characters that could exist here? Or, you know, so like, you know, the culture seems interesting. It seems like people are tapping into this not infinite but seemingly infinite resource of interesting objects and items that they're pulling out of this fish or these fish. You know, what are the groups of people here? What's a group of people here? And what are they doing? You know, like what's something interesting that we might have or a character that you might meet here? Yeah. I mean, obviously there's somebody who's like the explorer.
Yeah, your guide.
Maybe your guide or something. There's that Nakadama who might be buying up objects. That's interesting.
For whatever reason, the DM wants them to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they could be doing it to remove the items. They could be doing it to become all powerful or whatever.
Yeah.
Just leave that up to them.
Maybe there's like a group of merchants who buy a bunch of first stage and other objects and take them back to Yadaman.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, they have a shop there. You could almost, you could imagine there'd be like thinking about the gondola style thing that we were talking about in Portland. It's not the gondola. It's something. The gondola is not the right word.
Yeah, it's a gondola.
Yeah, it's gondola-ish. They could have a similar thing, like a cable car going from one of the fish's mouth outward, and the shop just like is constantly like putting junk into it and like pulling the wire and running the cable car across, and they're taking like just a trail leading from that to Yadaman.
Yeah, I mean, you could do like there's somebody from Toggle who's like the mining expert, and maybe they've built like a mining car that kind of goes down as far as it can go.
Yeah. And
then that person, might be the person you hire if you want to like carve through a wall, like, oh, we got to get beyond we got to break into the stomach somehow.
Yeah.
There could be like somebody who has studied ancient scrolls and knows maybe the history, some of the history, whatever amount of the history of the fish that the DM wants to reveal, but they can sort of like predict where this, where the stomach would be, or where, the fabled treasure lies, where the stone, what was the stone?
The stone fruit.
The stone fruit, where the stone fruit is. Could be like that, like you'll have to get that information somewhere. Like who's going to tell you that story? So
I just was thinking of this. There's like archaeologists who, maybe I'm just thinking of Jurassic Park.
Sam Neill.
I might be thinking of Jurassic Park, but if there's something that's similar to this, I'm going to pretend like I knew about that too.
Yeah.
But no, the concept of like someone taking like old bugs and I feel like maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know. I feel like there's something here. There's like an article that I read like 10 years ago or something. But no, the idea of someone like trying to bring a extinct animal back to life.
Oh.
So imagine that these spirits, these giant fish spirits, ate all of the fish that used to be in this lake. And so now fish have been reintroduced, but they're like, blueback salmon and, other fish like that. But there's all these other like creatures, fish and insects that used to live here. And people are like chiseling them out of the side of this fish. Then are able through magic to bring them back. So there's all of these pools with these like, this is the first
super
batch of
rare
fish that are alive
neat.
From 800 years ago. And there's like 14 of them. And we're trying to reintroduce them. And so there's like a group of not scientists, druids, I guess, who are like, we're using magic to bring these fish back. We're on the search for eggs, which we know are down there, or we've brought back 4 of the 17 species that used to live in this.
Whoa. That would be interesting. Like also, like imagine if there's some property of these things that when they swallowed something, like if they swallowed a spirit, the spirit wouldn't be able to go back to the spirit realm. Like it would be stuck in there. So that you might have spirits that are down there that have been trapped for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's like, but
is their stomach like an anti-magic field or something like that?
Oh, dude.
It's very scary down there.
That would be crazy.
That is crazy. I'm loving how this is turning out.
This is fun.
This is a super interesting. It was always going to be interesting. They're cities built inside the mouth of fishes, but this concept is so cool. Okay, so the last thing, let's look on our map. Now, this map is outdated. We technically have a new map, but we can look here and let's talk about where we think this is going to be.
So I guess our original principle of the further west, the lower level.
Yeah.
So do you feel like this is like a, 5 to 7th level part, or is this a 3 to 4 or 2 to 5?
Yeah, that's hard. So, okay. So looking at these lakes here, this most furthest western lake has the Temple of Shum in it, which is an old Nakajima ziggurat. And so, with a location already being in that lake, I think it would make sense to probably leave it be. what we could say is it could be in the Gale Field. It could also be, I don't hate having it be on this most western lake.
Yeah. This one out here.
Yeah, that one right there. Or the one at the base of the mountain too.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that could also be, but it's tiny. That's the hardest part. It's the smallest of them.
I mean, this is the
biggest one. That's the big one, but that's also where the ziggurat is. Yeah.
Well, looks like that one would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, the central, the one in the... So the biggest thing is, if we put it in the center, the thing that's really close to that is the Fishhead Coven. Well, the Opal Falls too, but the Fishhead Coven's main headquarters are nearby. So if that's the case, how do the Fishhead Coven interact? I mean, with the other lake, the lake on the most western side, I hope there's artwork up. The lake on the most western side here, there's not a lot going on. I think the closest thing to that is Okiri Village.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of high level things being in low level places.
Works for me.
I like it. I like that you're in your little town and way in the distance you see the mountain and you could get there and there's, a red dragon that lives there and they're just like, don't go there. And you're like, okay. And but you're like, wow, let's go check it out.
Yeah.
So, and you're like first level.
It's very,
you get killed by a swarm of bees.
I think I've mentioned Farmer Giles of Ham before, but it's very Farmer Giles of Ham, which is
I have not heard this.
It's a Tolkien book.
Oh.
About a red dragon that's like terrorizing the village of Ham, and Farmer Giles goes to deal with the red dragon mostly by talking.
Good on him.
Yeah. And then I think he becomes the village leader afterwards or something like that.
Right
I think he convinces the dragon to be on his side. Honestly, it's a very short book. I haven't read it in 10 years. I do remember liking it.
Yeah.
My brother's name is Giles, so it was kind of like I felt like it was necessary.
Yeah. You're like, all right.
Yeah.
That's
little Tolkien book. One that is fairly easy to read, I might add.
It's not
probably because it's a children's book, but it's like 100 pages or something. Oh yeah. There's no craziness. But it's a fun little book. But same concept, right? Where it's like seemingly this huge, dangerous red dragon, but dealt by a farmer.
Yeah, I mean, if you can reason with something, like you role play your way through it. Like, I'm down with that. Like dragons don't always have to kill you; they can be,
They can be talked to,
and then they can eat you.
There also could be an interesting interaction between the Lionfish King, if we put it on the western lake here.
Yeah.
If there is a bunch of Nakadama historical artifacts and things like that, maybe the Lionfish King wants something from inside of there.
Well, if there are extinct fish that you can bring back to life, I mean, that would be
the lion. This is a wild thing. What if the Lionfish King was funding the research? To bring the fish back to life.
That's interesting. Or maybe he's looking for a particular kind.
He's looking for a particular
There
kind.
was like an ancient...
Whoa.
Yeah, there was something out of the fish folk myth that is like... Yeah. There was like sort of the originator. Maybe a long time ago, the most ancient of the fish folk kings was swallowed by that fish. And they're like, this one's got to be in there somewhere. Or it could be an ancient fish folk queen. Like, we don't know. Maybe the Lionfish King is like, I don't know.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe there's like an anonymous donor that's like been funding this entire time.
It's all like, it's
sending coins and
it's covered in like little scales.
Yeah.
And you just like, it's all anonymous. It's like
everyone. Yeah, well, I don't know what happens, but once a month we get a box full of gold petals.
Yeah.
And they're soaking wet.
Yeah. Fish folk, you can see like their little feet slapping on the pavement as they run back into the surf.
Oh, that's so fun. Oh man, maybe there's a couple fish folk that live in the that are like trying to become freshwater fish folk. They're like really struggling. That's fun.
Yeah.
I really like that. Okay.
That's funny.
Well, with that being said, we're getting close to the end of this podcast episode. So we'll wrap things up. I don't know what the name of this village is, but something. Fishmouth Village.
Three Fish Village.
Three Fish Village.
Yeah.
Three Fish Monty. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. Yeah. And a very exciting dip into the expanded universe of Obojima. We'll continue to develop this outside of this podcast. Like always, what we say here might not make it into any final product, but we're pretty excited about this. And if you're interested in more expanded universe stuff, please let us know what you want to hear more about. Things like that. So thank you so much. Follow us on Discord. Watch the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. You can listen to some of our new album on Spotify and YouTube and other places like that. And yeah, thank you so much. We will catch you all next time on the Obojima Podcast.